Hi everyone, Scott here again from REMAX East Coast Elite Realty. And as we are approaching Christmas, just a few days away, we're back here at the McAdam Railway Station, and we're going to go in and talk to Frank Carroll. And as promised, he is a man of many hats, as you'll see. You'll catch on to that hopefully during our conversation. But this man has a teaching career. He has one of the longest serving terms, I believe, as mayor of the community. And now he's heavily involved here with the railway station. He's going to explain all that to us. So let's go enjoy a chat. We are sitting inside the Maxwell room here in the McAdam Train Station, and a couple of objectives of this podcast is I kind of wanted to, as anybody that's been following along knows, we kind of started our journey with Hometown Proud out here last year, and I kind of wanted to shine the spotlight on this train station again, and thought it would be very interesting to sit down and talk to an ex-mayor of the village of McAdam here. So I'm going to let him introduce himself for us. He's a man of many hats.
Thank you very much, Scott. I have served McAdam in many capacities over the years, and I enjoyed 36 years of being the mayor of this municipality, and in working with the community in many, many endeavors, one being the acquisition of this building, getting this railway station when the Canadian Pacific Railway left the community, making sure that this building didn't get tore down or left in disarray where we would have nothing left of it. It had too much history, too much significance as a national treasure. It was part of the building of the railway from east to west in this country, and we had to make sure this did not get lost, and we did. And I probably played a fairly major role with a very progressive council way back in those days. And we worked very, very hard to make sure that we were ready when the Canadian Pacific decided they didn't want to be any longer in the Maritimes, that we were ready to make sure this building didn't go with them. Okay. So it was here and we were going to keep it. Okay, so with community support, that's exactly what happened.
All right, so let's, we might have missed for those that I don't think I introduced you by your name. So tell us who you are and a little bit about, let's back up and find out a little bit about who you are, where you came from.
This is my opportunity to talk about my hat.
I was going to ask you about your hat. So as I said, you're a man of many hats. So what happens if you put that hat on?
If this hat goes on, I can pretty well say what I like and get away with it.
Okay.
Never had this though when I was mayor, wasn't around. But after being there for some time, I was involved in the railway station. So we do a lot of performing here. So I use the hat, and when I wear it, I always say I'm Mr. McLean. My middle name is McLean, named after the doctor of this community who was a great friend of my family, my parents, and my grandparents. And as a result, I just use this when I'm telling fibs or not quite telling the truth, which I can say I can get away with. I also give it to other people as well, by the way. So if you were to don the hat, you could also say whatever you would like to say, by the way. And it doesn't have to be the truth.
Well, you keep that handy because I might need that for the...
You might need it, but I probably will need it.
Okay.
But in any event, we do a lot of our shows with it. My name is really Frank Carroll, middle initial M for McLean. And I actually taught school all of my life. A wonderful career that I enjoyed very, very much in Woodstock, New Brunswick, and also McAdam, where I became principal and where I operated all kinds of other activities that are numerous to go on, and I was involved in many projects and also service clubs. I'm very proud to be a Lion member, and I'm exceptionally proud to be part of the Lakeland Industries program, which is a sheltered workshop in this community that has about 30 persons who are employed there who have exceptionalities. And exceptionalities are disabilities or qualities that make them exceptional. And it's a wonderful, wonderful training center. And again, board of directors and all part of that. So those are all part of what I feel was giving back to the community. And this is a great giving back opportunity right here. at the McAdam Railway Station.
It is. So before we get too far into it, tell us about this room. This is the Maxwell room.
Yes, this room would have been originally, when it was built in 1901, it was actually just a lobby where you would wait to go into the hotel on the second floor. And behind me there's a door that's marked the hotel, and that's where you would go up to the original bedrooms that existed in this station. This is one of the very few stations ever built by the Canadian Pacific Railway across Canada which has a hotel in the actual station. Most of all the hotels in larger centres across Canada were grand hotels, and they were adjacent to the stations or across the street or nearby, but they weren't part of the actual train station itself. This one was, and the hotel was much smaller. The hotel and the station was built in 1901 and added on to in 1912. And in 1912, the hotel changed from 8 rooms to about 20 rooms. And then it became much busier, much more traffic that traveled from east to west across the country, stopping at the McAdam Railway Station.
Okay, interesting.
Now the Maxwell room itself is named after Edward Maxwell. Edward Maxwell was a great architect, and Edward Maxwell actually designed and created the models for all of the railway properties across the country in Canada in the early 1900s. This station would have been the work of Edward Maxwell, as were many of the buildings, and Minister's Islands House and Barn also was another building that would have been part of the Maxwell characteristic. This room has been dedicated to Edward Maxwell. Behind me are Edward Maxwell's paternal grandparents, and the camera may pick up over the fireplace. There's a tree in front of it there. Another portrait of Edward Maxwell himself. Edward Maxwell's grandsons became great friends of the McAdam Railway Station, and as a result of their contribution towards the station and the contribution towards entertaining and sharing stories of the Maxwell family, we were able to name this room the Maxwell Room, and we are very pleased that that family has made tremendous contributions towards the restoration of the McAdam Railway Station.
Okay, and that door behind us, you've got that secured. You mentioned there could be a ghost from the past visit us out of that door, so hopefully that...
We have met several stories that are intriguing stories of the history of the McAdam Railway Station. Several events over time that have happened here, sometimes involving younger children, sometimes involving an actual attempted murder that happened in this station. Those stories are in our history, and we've had several paranormal groups that have come here and visited the station and spent some time with us. We have their stories greatly added to it as well. And probably if I wanted to get to the paranormal stage, I might want to put the hat on.
I think that's a good
But
idea.
I'm not really very knowledgeable about all those activities. But I know that they enjoyed the stories, and we've had several visitors that spend time here. We have had some tragedies at the railway station, and there are stories that there are ghosts that do linger, particularly upstairs. The most common room for ghosts appearing, from my understanding, with or without the hat on, the most common room you're in right now, this is the room that we are told has the most activity with ghosts that are in the building, is the Maxwell room.
Okay, well, we'll be optimistic that we'll remain...
We'll be careful.
We'll be careful, be unvisited. So, how many years did you serve as mayor? I'm backing up a little bit here.
I served about 42 years in municipal politics, on council a couple of times. I was defeated twice for mayor, but went back in again. I always said that I think the community maybe just couldn't find anybody else for a long time, because I really did serve a long term. At one time I was recognized by the province, I think, as the longest serving mayor in the province, and that was a few years ago. I remember the sharing of so many things over those years of my 36 years as mayor, and I have to tell you that there's no one single person that creates feeling of a contribution in a community that's a small community especially, or probably even a small city. And if you're really going to have success in the community is going to do it with you. And McAdam did it together. And I've never been involved in any activities that were a solo flight, nor would I want to. And I think I taught school the same way. I believed that the students and the staff and the custodians and the bus drivers, and if we're all on the same page and we all have the same priority, that it's all about kids and they're the priority, then we've got something that no one can take away. And that's where your success story lies. And so it is with being a mayor or a leader in a community. And we have one right now. Our current mayor is a very good friend. And I have to say, he has exactly got the same sort of characteristics that I have. So no wonder he got elected.
Well, there you go, cut from the same cloth, so to speak.
Exactly.
So, as you know, we were here last Friday night. I wanted to highlight this a little bit too, with one of your dinner theaters that we were here last Friday night, which was absolutely incredible, outstanding. And I'm going to jump around a little bit probably with this because I want you to run us through this a little bit. But when you're talking about the school and having been a teacher, one thing that impressed me was the servers that you had here. They're all high school kids here.
Yes.
I can't say enough good about them. I was absolutely blown away, as were the company that I was with that night. The professionalism. Anyways, tell us about that, because I thought that was just absolutely incredible that you could have that many young people serving. They were top notch. So how did that all? Tell us a little bit about that.
They are, and I appreciate that comment, and they are just exceptional students. I haven't been a teacher at McAdam High School for 20 years now, but I feel connected to those kids just as much as if I were teaching there now, because they are just excellent kids. Mm-hmm. And these young people accept the training that we provide for them, and we do train all of our students to work here. I have to tell you a little story about that'll kind of piece it together. About 4 or 5 years ago, during one of those dinners that you attended last week, about 5 years ago, we had a lady that was in the room, and she was from St. Andrews, actually, with a group of folks, and they were enjoying the dinner. And about halfway through the dinner, I was wearing the outfit I am today, and entertaining, which having a lot of fun with everybody, and it is a lot of fun, especially when you can move the hat off and on. So throughout the evening, and then she asked me, where did you get these students from? What community college does these students come from? And I said, they're not from community college. They're from high school. Oh no, she said, you better put your hat on. You're not telling me the truth. So I put the hat on. I took it back off again. I said, no, I am telling you the truth. They're not from community college. Well, she said, I teach at St. Andrews Community College. We do the course there for students, all about teaching the students in the restaurant business, and I forget the name of the course where we're talking, but all of that course is all done there, and they do a wonderful job with it. And she said, I've never seen these students. Are you sure? They must be at the community college. What community college are they in? And I said, I think it's called the McAdam Station one, because we do the training here. And who does? I said, well, I do a lot of it. Well, where'd you take your training? I said, I took my training at the Shiretown Inn in St. Andrews, which is the earlier name of the Kennedy Inn. Mm-hmm. When I was 16 years old, I got a job for the summer, and I taught food service, and the people that owned that building taught me how to do the food service, and I never forgot it, along with all the other skills that one would learn, and I shared that with students. She was really not convinced about that being a true story. But she said, I want to talk to those students. Can I do that? And I said, sure can. So when would you like to? And she said, I'll have my dessert, and then can I meet with them for a few minutes? Yeah, you can go in the kitchen. I'll tell them you're going to have a chat with them. She did, and she came back out. And she said, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. And you're right, they are exceptional. And they know exactly how to deal with every situation. First thing that shines up is ladies get their food before the men, and all the other things that they do to look after folks for the evening, which is all part of that 5-course dinner that makes it so special. We call that a Christmas extravaganza. We do 4 of those performances. All of us repeat the same things over usually, but I have to tell you, each night's show is never the same because the audience are encouraged to participate, and they do. And you can tell from all the things we do are interactive. So it's a fun evening for everyone.
So yeah, so let's just keep going on that with that momentum there. So for people that haven't been here to one of these extravaganzas, these dinners, you got to come check it out at some time. Get your name on a list. It fills up. It's always sold out. So just what could people expect? Just give us a little Cole's Notes version. It is a theatrical type experience. So what can people expect? They come here to one of these dinners.
Well, we always say to them, and I guess I introduce the evening a lot with saying this is about having a good time, and if you don't want to laugh and have fun, we always say to them right at the very beginning, get back out in your car and enjoy the evening, because it's all about having fun, and everyone gets into it quite quickly. All of our actions, which are like a dinner theater, I would say it's more like a dinner theater. We do part of it when we first open, and there's a young lady, my sister, who actually performs with me. She is very phenomenal. She is very interactive. She teases all the men in the room, of course, and she plays 2 parts. She plays a part of Miss Quinn, who was one of the ladies over the years that looked after the girls and boys that worked here in the hotel and in the dining room. And she also then plays a part of a lady who really I refer to as not a lady, who somehow arrived here, and I think she tells us eventually that she was maybe on a boxcar when she landed in McAdam on a train and snuck upstairs and got a room and found some clothes and all the rest. And she tries to take over the evening quite well, eventually catching me in something I've done wrong, threatens my job, and I end up giving her a night upstairs, or a 2 or 3 or 4 night upstairs with one of the guests that's here, and it ends up in just a roaring laughter of good fun. So it's a great evening. Now in the middle of all that, we have a young man who sings beautifully and does some Christmas songs for us. It's all part of the show and all part of the entertainment. It's an interactive audience in everything that we do, and the audience actually spends a few minutes singing the Beer Barrel Polka, a famous song of McAdam Railway Station that was sung for every troop train that passed through here. Part of our history, part of the character, and it's all in our history. So those troop trains were bid farewell as they left to go to war in World War I and World War II. And everybody that would come to say goodbye to those trains from all around the countryside, and they came from everywhere because they bid farewell, and they would bring home cooking to the soldiers, they would bring hot drinks to the soldiers, and the women would knit socks and mitts and hats and all sorts of things. These soldiers never could get off the train. They stayed on, but all these things were passed through the train through the windows, and many of the soldiers threw their hats out, badges, some of their medals. They would send them and just send them out to these folks. It was always said McAdam Junction was a grand place because everyone gave such a great farewell. And the audience, of course, at the dinner show joins in as if they're here in World War I, and they bid farewell with the Beer Barrel Polka and sing the song. Of course, if they don't sing the song, they don't get the pie.
Yeah, and you don't want to miss that pie.
Because obviously the show ends with dessert, and our dessert is our famous railway pie that's served at the McAdam Railway Station.
And throughout all that experience, you are getting some great food too.
Yeah, I think the food is pretty exceptional. You can get a beautiful hot turkey dinner or roast beef dinner. We have a homemade salad that we do here that's special, and a homemade soups. All of our food is made here at the station. And the event is a really great evening, starting about 5:30 and ending about 9:30. So it's really a 4-hour night. Mm-hmm. And we've been lucky. The weather's been good to us. And so we've done great performances and great evenings that everyone's had a good time.
Well, I can attest to that for sure. Roughly how many people are in that piece of the puzzle to pull it all?
We do about 120 maximum in one night show, and we only do 4 shows. 2 weekends on Friday and Saturday nights, mostly because we're all volunteer and we want to kind of have a good show and not get too played out. We have several other dinners that are still ongoing at the railway station. We have one today that will be on tonight, but those are not the 5-course shows, and the dinner theaters, we only do 4 of those. And they do sell out really quickly. And the crowds are just phenomenal. They're ready to have a good time. And believe it or not, we have several people that come back every year. And we have several that come from a long distance. I think the other night when you were here, Scott, we had 2 people from Prince Edward Island. We had 4 people from Nova Scotia. We had some Americans with us. I think there were about 8 Americans that joined us from Caribou, Maine, from Exeter, Maine, and I think from Danforth, Maine. And then I kind of joke in the crowd when I put the hat on and say, we also have 4 people from Grand Manan. Pretty special because they were here back for the 3rd time. And they always come back each year.
I can see why people come back for sure. So how many people are buzzing around that kitchen through one of these?
About 25 people in the kitchen that are volunteers from the community. And I think the other night we had probably about 14 students working, doing the service in the dining room throughout the evening. They also stay to help us make sure the tables all get cleared, and many of those students come back the next day and come in to reset those tables for the next dinner and get the dining room ready once again. Tablecloths are all changed and all of that. New dishes are all put out, and we have students that come in and help do that. It's a great community effort, and many of those people that help us are not on the board of directors for the station. They're plus those folks. I think we have a list of, I know we have a list of volunteers that we can call on, and that list is about 110. And last fall, we did celebration for volunteers. And the station did that here in our own building. And we actually had a special food service done for them that we did here. And the board of directors looked after all of that and all the volunteers that could come. And I think we had about 80 in the room. And they were treated to dinner, and they were treated to a chance to win a few of draws of prizes that we had. And actually 6 or 8 people won a free dinner of the 5-course dinners. And we also provided the skits, and the dinner show that we do at the normal 5-course dinners was put on for all the volunteers who are in the kitchen mostly and never get to see it. So they actually saw the show similar to what, a little bit shorter version, but they saw the show that you would have seen was put on for them. Keep the volunteers committed, part of your team, and you never lose them, because they're having just as much fun as a volunteer as we are, and that's important.
Yeah, a very, very fun vibe when we were here. It does. It's just, it's enlightening for sure.
I think we also make sure before the season's over at Christmas time, we make sure all the volunteers get a piece of homemade railway pie. So each one, they don't get to eat them at all through all the shows, but they get a one piece they get at the end of the Christmas season. That's valuable too.
It is. That's priceless. I'd come and do some work for another piece of that pie for sure. It's delicious. So it sounds like McAdam. I mean, we got the small hometown vibe, pretty important to you. But what, why McAdam? What's the draw? What was the draw for you? You've put a lot of years in.
Well, I grew up in McAdam. I skated on that pond out there, the same pond that Barbara Ann Scott skated on when she was here in 1952. I skated on that pond, but I didn't skate with Barbara Ann Scott. But those 14 girls that were working here that day got to skate with Barbara Ann Scott. So that was our skating rink. But we had a closely knit community. McAdam's a community that I never forgot, a very popular saying. It takes a whole community to raise a child. And McAdam seemed to me, for us, always had a lot of children. I always said we had a lot of children because the stories we would hear, that there were so many trains, that the trains would wake you up at night. And when the trains woke people up, you had to do something. So that's why we had a lot of children. That was the story that we all said in McAdam. And I came from a family of 5. I had 4 sisters. But in any event, there were a lot of children. The school had a lot of children. And the community always volunteered and helped out with all the different things long before the station became available for us. Railroaders worked with the railway, they had good jobs, and they gave of their time to coach hockey, basketball teams, and everything else. Our school, when I was there for many years, 34 years in McAdam, was full of coaches, volunteers that were doing things for kids in schools. I don't think we have as much of that today anywhere, but these were volunteers. And they would give those skills, or they would show kids all kinds of things to do. Especially using the out of doors was popular. We'd have railway workers who not only could run a railway, but they could do all sorts of other things. And they were folks that hunted and fished and navigated their way through woods, or knew how to protect themselves if they were stranded out in the woods and got lost, what to do and how to survive and all of that. So there were all kinds of those safety programs that were offered in schools over the years in McAdam by volunteers, and even railway safety. The railway would bring the school kids into the station up here way back in those days, and they would bring the kids in and they would give them safety programs. So there were a lot of that went on. It did take a whole community to raise a child. We were very, very big in scouting programs in those days, and Girl Guide programs, and all of that sort of stuff was there. This was an active community, always was. And if you needed something done, you had to do it yourself. And I think the survival of small communities, especially off the beaten track, and we were off the beaten track, except for the rail track. So the rail was significant for us, but we were away from the big centers. And to have things in McAdam, one thing that I know the current mayor looks at, and the same as I did, if it's going to happen here, we got to get our act together and make it happen here. You're not going to wait for someone to come and do it and bring it to you. You need to produce it yourself. And then you need to fight to keep it. And that's what it's all about. And I think McAdam's always been a community that people stood up for what was right and did what was right to try to keep things going for the community.
Well
and
said.
I applaud them for that.
Very well said. What do you see? What do you want to see for the future, McAdam?
I certainly want to see, first off, McAdam to be a good place to live, a good community, which it is today. I'd like it to remain a good community. I would like McAdam to have some growth. I don't want to lose any of that we lose any of the services that we have that are good services. We want to keep those. We want to make sure that we have emergency services are appropriate, and at the same time we want to make sure that we have a good quality of life. Social programs that are important to us, which the community generates themselves, and they do a great job with that. And all the other programs economically that sustain us, we need to have those. We need to have the jobs for people and keep striving to have those. It's a great retirement community too, but you also need the young people, and you need to make sure they're involved to keep on going. I think McAdam will always have that because it's got that grit. And I think McAdam will strive to continue to be a good community.
Seems to be some resilience there, like you said.
No question about it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
which is really, really good. So, other than this railway station and this incredible piece of history right here, from someone from afar, why would someone want to come to McAdam?
We have a lot of new folks that are living here, and I know I've met many of them. We could drink, because many of those folks are volunteering right here at the railway station. And we see them, and we were talking this morning about the number of folks that do come here.
Nice
And
mug,
when they're
nice
here,
mug, by the way.
pardon?
Nice mug, by the way.
Oh,
Sorry to
thank you,
interrupt.
aren't they? They're a great mug. We sell those here at the railway station. To us.
Cold, but it's still good.
Yeah,
the
we'd
mug.
have to get some service here. Those girls are in school today.
No, that's a shame.
So in any event, I think when people come here, and they really want to get active. Just get out, go, meet people and do things. And it's very invitational. And there's a lot of places to do that, including here. And we have an awful lot of newcomers to McAdam that drop into here and help out. And many of them are coming back because this is fun. And it's volunteering, but it's fun. And volunteers need to be respected and valued, and it can be fun. And I volunteer for all of these things that I do here. And there's no question I wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't fun.
Yeah, you got to be.
So we need to make it a good time, and that's important. And the railway station is a great place to begin for anyone to come out and enjoy this beautiful atmosphere and take part in some of the things that are happening here.
That's interesting you say that. I can attest to that because when we were here last Friday night, ironically, I had run into a couple that I was actually fortunate enough to work with and sell them a property here in McAdam a few years ago, and it was just nice to catch up with them. And I'll leave their names out of it so I don't incriminate them, but you know,
Right.
they had a welcome with a big hug at the door when I come in and a handshake, and they love it here. I mean, and they were here taking part in the dinner, and it was nice to see. So it really exemplifies what you just spoke to, for sure. So as we wind down here, one thing I've noticed, you haven't wore the hat a whole lot through the interviews. So
I thought I'd better be honest today.
So I think so I think for anybody,
So you want me to give you some non-truth stuff now?
Non-truth stuff. So always fun. It's relevant to one's perception, I guess. But so it's nice to see that you're very.
You know, when we do the dinner shows particularly, and so many things in the summer when we do our tours, and I don't dress up all summer. We have students here. By the way, we train those students, and they're excellent tour guides for us. And they're also excellent tourist counselors, which they are. And I should have the hat off because I'm telling the truth. So they're excellent tourist counselors and good guides, and they do a great job. But when we do the storytelling, the hat is so important because we exaggerate. And we make the stories just so interesting in what we do. But they are all based on true facts. As I talk about the time we had the rail leak in the rail car, and it was the rum that leaked out of a rail car, and we talk about it. It actually happened in 1944 in McAdam Railway Station. It's a true story. And people all ran with their baby bottles and milk bottles and all the rest of it. But we exaggerate that story a lot to give it so much more appeal and much more feel.
Embellish would be a good word, maybe.
Pardon?
Embellish, maybe a little
Embellish
bit.
it very well.
Right.
So those things make so much comedy, and we can bring all that comedy into it. But at the same time, you bring the reality. And when you think about the troop trains, particularly, I think it's probably when we do that at the shows we do. I think it's the most meaningful part of the evening that people have a moment that is nostalgic, that is bringing back a memory of truth of the troop trains traveling through here about one every 3 days or 3 days a week, and them being full of the troops headed to Europe and going to the St. John to go by boat or or to Halifax. And we tell that story in it, and people really that story hits them a little. And the young lady who does the wrap-up line says a couple of lines that are very heartwarming to everybody. And these troops gave away what they had in their uniforms. It didn't matter to them. They were going to serve in the war. And then she ends up by saying, you can hear the soldiers still singing the song going down the track, which is so true. And then she'll say, and many of them never came back. And I think you relate all of that good memory with some harsh facts too. Mm-hmm. And the combination of that is extremely heartwarming for people. So they get rekindled to some of those many magical moments that are both good and bad. Mm-hmm. It's a good place to do it. Mm-hmm. Our tour guides are also fabulous storytellers, but they don't get the hat.
Not just everybody gets to wear the hat. Well, look, I really appreciate you taking time to sit down and chat with us, and I'm sure we could continue this on much longer, but you've obviously wore a few hats, and I'm sure it would go. I'd be speaking on behalf of many to say that a lot of people are probably very grateful to have had you and lots of others like yourself to keep the wheels turning and make McAdam what it is. So thank you for that, and thank you for your hospitality.
And I'd like to take the hat off and say that we are so indebted to not hundreds, but thousands of people who support the restoration and the restoring and the refurbishing of this magical place in our province. The fact that we are preserving this great piece of Canadian history, and it's not going to be lost ever. Not just the outside, but the inside too. It's not going to be lost. And all of those folks who come to all the things that we do here are so committed and dedicated to supporting us, and thank you, thank you, thank you for that. And on behalf of all of us here at the station, I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and God bless everyone.
Well, thank you very much, and
Thank
right
you.
back at you.
And thank you. Get the hat. You're not getting that hat.
No, I better not. I better leave the hat off. But thanks again. Merry Christmas to you and yours.
All the best. Thank you.